It's 88.5. Happy to welcome Andrew Hozier Byrne, a.k.a. Hozier, back. Third time.
Third time. It is.
Third time is a charm for you, my friend.
Yeah, I hope so.
I just remember the last time when you came in, you were very candid. You just put out the song for the soundtrack to Tarzan, and there was a whirlwind of activity, a wave that you could have never imagined you would be riding, and you had the wherewithal at the height of this insanity that followed the debut to say, is this a good thing or a bad thing that's happened to me now?
Right.
And you were aware of is all of this too much?
Yeah. There's pitfalls. Like there is pitfalls, and it's good to be aware of it. And also, I certainly wouldn't be an Irishman if I wasn't skeptical of compliments and skeptical of people telling you you're great. I think that's, and just in general, I think I've always kind of. It's always grossed me out a little bit when so yeah, firm believer in not believing your own BS, as it were, and not believing your own hype. But there is pitfalls to success that came like that, and there was a big unlikely hit on our hands, a huge it was a bit of a whirlwind for a while, and I was so green. I was a college dropout when we first would have met.
Yeah.
I would have left college to pursue it, and within a few years had this hit that was far beyond me, you know what I mean, that was I had to catch up with. But yeah, it's good to be skeptical of you remember why you're getting into it, why you got into it, and what you want out of it. So after that I would have gone home and chilled out for a bit.
I remember in a moment where we were really trying to find the bearings, and being Irish myself, I gave you the only advice I could give you, which is, what would Van do?
Yeah.
What would Van do? And guess what? Somewhere, Van is smiling, because I could not have expected, and I expected a lot from you, I could not have expected the power, the literal power, the way when Nina Cried Power arrived here. It was flabbergasting. Tell me how you tapped into that song.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks first. I don't know. I think for that one, it's nice to reintroduce the work with that song, and it's nice to, because it, I think it was trying to write something that was hopeful and that was optimistic and that was decidedly not cynical. That wasn't a roll of the eyes, or it wasn't it's not as tongue-in-cheek as a lot of the other work. Some of the other stuff kind of rolls its eyes and has a bit of a laugh and a bit of a wry smile about, a feeling of the end of the world on its way. But that one, I wanted it to be, hopeful and look to, just the work of other artists that we hail as heroes, and we hail them as heroes for a reason, And you do a great shout out throughout. It's a litany of which reading the lyrics is certainly for younger people, it's going to be an educational, tracing of history. Yeah, I hope. There's another song as well on the record which is it's pointing to a legacy of music and but yeah, for that song definitely, and that was another reason to write it as well too. And I think I realized that I had a very young fan base in some ways, kids, younger people who maybe wouldn't be aware of, wouldn't listen to, say, Woody Guthrie or Pete Seeger or
Nina
Simone. Yeah, absolutely. So the artist who the song is named for. But that's another reason to do it, and that's such a rich legacy, and they're heroes for a reason, and their work lives beyond them forever for a reason, and they let their work be a kind of a vehicle for these incredibly important times, and they let their work be, it carries those times as a document for forever, and it carries the importance of what they were singing about, what they were talking about. It carries the human experience of people who were living in those times as a document forever. Now I think, you know, so that the only hope for a song in trying to do something like that is that it's adequate in some way, shape or form, and just it as a thank you note to that spirit. But I think having Mavis involved was really important for that. But like,
you know, I am convinced, and I've shared this with the people that I work with here and other artists that are like you know, undeniable fans. I really did have an epiphany once, seeing her like 30 years ago when I was young, and knowing about the Staple Singers legacy. And this was when the Staple Singers were, you know, all alive and performing together. And I literally had that moment in the Blues Brothers where John Belushi cartwheels down to the side. And I walked up, and it's the first time I ever went up to the stage and touched the hand.
Right.
And every time I've seen her since, it's this, like, I don't know, it may be a mental thing with me, but I swear she's an angel that's been sent down to carry the message.
You're not the first that's not the first time I've heard that said ever. And also a lot of members of my band, having got the chance to kind of play where we did Ellen the other day and doing some kind of video work with her in Dublin, like she just has that presence, you know. You feel like you're in the presence of somebody who's magical in some way, you know. She's royalty. She's kind of she's rhythm and blues and soul and gospel royalty, but she just has a presence that she's you know, there's a just since we're talking about Irish, there's an Irish poet called Seamus Heaney who is a poem with a line, being with her was intimate and helpful, like a cure you didn't know was happening. But it's like that with Mavis Staples. It's like, you know, she just is a wonderful person to be around, but so generous with her spirit, so generous with her time, so generous with her natural kind of warmth. One of the most charismatic people I've ever met in my life.
Bob Dylan thought so.
Yeah, no doubt.
As an aside.
Yeah. Like, you know, and could you imagine? I believe he proposed to Mavis Staples. Imagine, like, to steal the heart of that dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she was, and she's such an important part of that song. And so,
am I sensing a May December romance, perhaps? Just yeah. Now that I've put the idea in, anyway.
Yeah.
Were you pinching yourself when you, as you know, again, with the modesty I would expect you to always, you know, carry yourself with, when you are attempting to write such, you know, a thank you note, as you put it, and I think that's a great way of saying it, and then Mavis Staples is going to share the, how did that connection get made?
There was a few kind of like near misses of us nearly getting to meet each other. One in Australia and Byron Blues Festival, one at Newport Folk Festival up in Rhode Island, a beautiful festival. And she had been singing my song, I think, or she had been like doing a little bit of it in her shows, I think, and she wanted, they were kind of, there was talk of us maybe getting together and writing a little bit on her most recent record, but it never kind of came to fruition. So when this one came around, it was always, and when I heard that, I was kind of, I would have given my left arm to work with Mavis, you know, just because, you know, has such a unique legacy, such an important legacy in music, and also somebody who was so central to just incredible things that happened here in America with regards to civil rights, which it's worth noting was the catalyst for the civil rights movement in the north of Ireland. So yeah, she's just you know, it's incredible legacy. So when this song kind of started, I realized it was, you know, it was a song about, like, what, you know, a kind of a call to sort of just a call to that legacy, and kind of what the song was what its intention was. It became clear that I had to, you know, I had to reach out to Mavis and see if she'd be up. And
you connected, if I'm remembering correctly, you connected and recorded the original takes in Chicago, was it?
Yeah. So
which again has a certain amount of kismet feel into it too.
Totally, man. That was really, really. So CRC there in that's I think one of her favorite studios to record in. We went over there with a kind of a loose arrangement of it and recorded her vocals, and we were on either side of the glass and just singing phrases back to one another, and it was surreal. It definitely was surreal. Yeah.
This is why when I tell you that when we last spoke and you went, you were on that wave still, and the world was, there was a jet stream that you were being propulsed forward by. The song, as you talk about it, and you talk about the legacy of the people that came before you, one of the things that I appreciate as you indicated is you really don't politicize. You chose to, like those great heroes, evangelize. Mm-hmm. You were being, though, while things were happening to you personally that, you're pinching yourself and it's hard to believe that the world can be this, it's your oyster. The Irishman and you found certain things to worry about, and that Twitterverse and everything else kept reminding you that not everybody's enjoying the fast lane that you're currently on. So
totally.
You got to stay away from the internet.
Yeah, that's it.
It'll fill you with remorse.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. You kind of get a front row seat to the.
But it did bring some of the, when you got some time mm-hmm. to record, to finally to think mm-hmm. and write and find songs. You couldn't help but be informed about what was going on in our world, and it's been challenging to say the least.
It has been it's been a challenging few years. It's been a challenging decade for a lot of people. Since I mean, I think a lot of this goes back to we in 2008. The world faced a financial crisis it hasn't seen since the Wall Street crash of the 1920s. The Wall Street crash in the 1920s, in high school in Europe, we have to learn how that affected economic systems, of course, in Europe, and how that led to the rise of an extreme far right as well too, and what became of that, who was scapegoated for that, and the scapegoating of people. I won't go into it, but yeah, it's good to be informed. But I definitely came off the road, and it's good to have a hobby when you come off the road, because I put that kind of energy into kind of, I suppose, the kind of 24-hour news cycle, which is not a terribly healthy thing to do. But also at home, I think. I arrived back to a very different Ireland to the one that I'd left in a lot of ways. Homelessness was on the up. People were struggling, and it was a very heightened political time as well. People were delivering democratic change in a very hands-on, direct action sort of way, which was really, really inspiring as well too. And that's kind of what the video for Nina Cried Power is tries to credit. There's activists who, and we look at kind of progress as something that just happens. You know what I mean? That it was always going to happen. That the right to vote was always gonna come through, because that's just what is the right thing, and that
hindsight's easy to see it that way.
Yeah, it's easy to see it that way, but I mean, it's pushed for, and it's brought to the table, and by people who are just dedicated, making decisions of conscience, who dedicate their lives and their years to it. Ireland has gone through a lot of kind of cultural and social changes in the last few years, and there are people you can point to and just say, look, this did not happen by accident. This has not happened by the good graces of the political class, as it were. This is something that is worked for and earned and is wept and sweated for. So it was nice to kind of. That's really what the song was kind of a thank you note to, and the video as well too. Is that, and people like Mavis Staples was in the center of something like that. It was in the center of a very, very important kind of political movement.
You were, like a lot of artists that are trying to have that have a conscience. and they want to be as authentic as they can in the purpose of their writing. And you talked about, good purpose. You were also, back to the self-awareness side, you wanted to be careful not to, make it such an overtly political, the idea of whether the artist is entitled to comment on social issues, which is crazy because, you go back, you mentioned Pete Seeger, and you can go up to Woody Guthrie, and you can go up before, and there's always been a legacy of who, if not the songwriter, who is going to speak for the people. But now we're in this chaotic time of arguing. Everybody argues all the time. That the whole idea of, well, you should just stick to performing music. Yeah. And you were cognizant of, well, if I'm going to make a statement, I better be ready for both kinds of reactions because it's a reactionary era.
It really is, yeah. And you're going to piss people off. Sorry, excuse my friend. All right. But you're gonna annoy people, and that is an element to it. I think a lot of musicians as well nowadays, a lot of pop artists, the intention is to be apolitical. That is, avoid anything. We don't look at. I don't want politics in my music. I don't want politics in my sports. I don't want politics in my. But I think the way I view it is that whether politics is not something that happens in Congress. It's not something that happens in a suit and a tie and only takes place in a parliament or a government building.
A marble building.
Marble building. It is something that we all suffer. We all take part in. We all, we all. Are affected by the decisions of, let's say, politics is the financial crisis of 2008. There's huge, there's politics to that. There's that's, and its consequences are political, and working people suffer those consequences every day. That's politics. But like in music, in sport, whatever. If you look at soccer in Europe, look at the cultures of soccer and how it's an incredibly interesting. The politics of sport is incredibly interesting as well too. It's not something that's boring that wears a suit. It's something that we all live and breathe. And if it concerns the experience of people. And an artist is writing honestly about the experience of what it is to be a person just now, whatever. Maybe that's joyful, maybe that's tricky, maybe that's hard, maybe it's just going out on dancing on a Friday night, maybe it's a song about I can't afford to go out dancing on a Friday night. Lord's song Royals was this amazing pop song that was kind of about I can't afford to do what they do in music videos. There's people with tigers on gold chains. That doesn't represent me. It was a really, really beautiful statement in a song. That, that's just an honest depiction of what it's like to be a kid, what it's like to be a teenager at that time. That's, this is what we talk about when we talk about politics. So, and music, as long as it's representing people's experiences, it's representing politics. It's just concerning people. But so that's you can't have music without politics. You can't.
Well, and we've been waiting. And this year there have been a few artists that have given voice to concerns and haven't been. Let's face it. You can be as reactionary as everybody's being, or you can try to convey a message that hopefully, as Nina Cried Power does, is remind us all of there's good intention here. We're sharing this experience. I'm not trying to browbeat you into believing. Yeah. These artists before us set an example that is timeless.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
And you tapped into it. Now, not everything. In my understanding is as the EP, you had to get it out because you knew the songs were coming. You were in a fertile period. You figured that you were going to get X amount of songs. So the EP came out. There's more to come. And even one of the songs on the EP reveals you still have time to concern yourself with some of the carnal aspects in life. That would be more or less parts of Baby, But you still have the. I remember when we first saw you perform at the Hotel Cafe in that little setting, and you were just like saying, "Hi, everyone."
Yeah.
And I saw
green as the grass.
I saw everyone in the audience, men and women alike, and gender fluid, whatever. Everyone was swooning.
Right.
And I thought, he's got it. That part of it comes out in song too. You still know how to tap into,
Right.
the other part of the soul.
Yeah.
Not everything can be so,
Yeah, cerebral.
It's not going to be all sacred.
So,
Once in a while, we're going to get into the secular.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I get you.
So talk to me about, what you built up in terms of the forthcoming at some point sophomore album.
I think for me, like my biggest influences are blues music. I know what you're talking about, and like in the writing of a love song or writing songs that kind of engages just that just that little bit of yearning and that little bit of kind of lust to it or whatever. And like to me, like all my blues influences, and that's why I fell in love with blues music, is that for me just there's a raw, visceral kind of energy of yearning in blues music, and I think that's something that
you're howling at the moon, man.
Yeah,
literally, man. You're howling.
Yeah, that's it, and I think I still carry a lot of that influence in the work. But definitely for the record, I think what I was trying to do is it definitely takes into account or is aware of, I would say, the album, or the sort of spirit of the album, of this feeling of very, very difficult times, this feeling of chaotic times, and a somewhat definitely, and I mean this in the most tongue-in-cheek way, a feeling of a kind of there's a bit of doom soul to it. So there's a feeling of the end of the world hanging in the air. But again, it's not. I'm not trying to point the finger anywhere with it. I'm just in the same way that there is this kind of chaotic rhetoric, and there's rhetoric going on which can be very divisive, very disheartening, very upsetting. But there is, and that's serious business, and it has consequences. But there is also just what we see in people day to day, what we see in the people that we love day to day, and the caring for one another, and a spirit of solidarity. And that's equally, and being good to one another is serious business, and it has very, very serious consequences in the best way possible. So it's really just trying to find, I think the record, even though there's that sense of doom hanging in the air, like with one of the songs on the record, NFWMB, is kind of sort of takes place in this imagined end of the world scenario, is just trying to find the sweetness in that, and the it's a kind of a squeeze of the hand, you could put it. So
exactly.
Like, that kind of a comforting squeeze of the hand.
Not to give you a Hallmark card analogy, but I literally about a week ago was walking behind an elderly couple, and they were in their 80s, and as they walked before me, the guy reached out for the woman's hand, and they strolled. And it sounds like it's something you'd see in some, sappy commercial, but just watching those two people hold hands, and it was like, I just want to follow them for a while. Because it's so cool to see that at that age, they're still making that intimate contact. Yeah. It was a wonderful sight.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's nice, as you say, when you see that and you see that there's something actual to that. There's something real to that. And there it is. And you can credit that, and you can say, look, there's something really hopeful and something very affirming about seeing something like that. And
A, they made it to their mid-80s, and B, they're still affectionate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, we got that going for us.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm not going to eschew that. I mean, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
You also got to work with Booker T. Come on.
Yeah, it was a dream, absolute dream come true. So, Booker T, again, so I was totally blessed. He had reached out to our side, saying when I was on the last tour, saying if the opportunity ever arose, would be great to work together on something. It never came about because I was just up to my gills. He's a total hero of mine. And I was so grateful. I got to say to him when he spent a week with us in London, he's across maybe 8 or 9 songs that we recorded in the sessions. So just getting to see him do his thing on the songs was a total joy. It was just, and the man's a genius, you know. But also getting to tell him that, like, the first band I was ever in when I was 14 or 15, I was covering Booker T and the MGs, and we were covering his arrangements, his Stax arrangement. We did a huge amount of Stax music, which he was band leader, obviously, of the Stax House band, and was arranging those songs. So it was his tunes that kind of switched that light on for me that just has never been switched off. You know, it was definitely something was lit up in me when I first heard Sam and Dave, when I first heard Otis Redding's voice, and when I first heard, you hear something as slick as Green Onions, you know what I mean? You hear something as slick as Booker T and the MGs, and you know, that to me was just,
time is tight.
Time is tight.
And
yeah,
it don't get more tighter.
Yeah, totally. You know, totally.
I think I did a double negative there, but that's appropriate in Stax.
Yeah, totally. But being able to just say that to him, and spending that time with him was a joy.
Now, you know, the record acknowledges strife. You know, certainly, you know, there is that fatalistic, the melancholic side. You know, you have to have the mandatory dose of melancholy.
Oh, yeah.
It's mandatory melancholy
it's
when you're
mandatory.
Irish.
Yes,
it's just got to be part of it.
Yeah.
You know, you have faith, but it's tempered with melancholy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's how you qualify as an Irish person.
Yeah.
I'm going to imagine, though, all that's left behind, the analysis, when you get to perform these songs as you've been doing the last couple of nights.
Yeah, it's fun.
When you bring them to life on a stage and the audience is there. Talk to me about how both the new songs and the catalog have been being brought back to life for you when you play live.
It's really fun, and I'm totally blessed with like a really, really great bunch of musicians. So the band has increased in numbers ever so slightly. We have an extra organ player, you know, a guy called Cormac Curran, who plays with the Villagers, plays a lot with John Grant and Lisa Hannigan. He's an amazing musician. He's kind of filling the shoes of Booker T up there, and then everybody sings. So we're kind of, it's really fun. We've kind of an unwritten rule. It should be as good as written now, but we don't do tracks. I wouldn't put anything on tracks. So it's just everything everything we do on stage. We're creating that sound live, which is fun and vibrant, and everybody is a singer. Everybody is playing something and making noises. About 8 of us up there. So it's a lot of fun. And
that's a far cry from you and a guitar at the Hotel Cafe.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's a world removed unto itself.
Totally, yeah.
But see, that the aspiration of the music demands it, I would guess. If you're going to what you've captured on record, you got to do it right. No short shrift.
Yeah, you got to do it right. And there's always that problem where you write a song you're really happy with, and then you're like, oh Christ, how am I gonna put this on stage?
I have a choir on this song. I can't have a choir on tour with me.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you sort of
we build
up your own in-house choir.
Yeah. You kind of you build a family, and you make sure everybody can hold a note and everybody is okay with singing, and but yeah, they're great. Like the crowds have been amazing, and it's really, what's also I'm really excited about this EP. Obviously, is sort of tip of the iceberg. A lot of the music that's coming down the pipeline as well is really, really. I was definitely leaning into rhythm a bit more, so it's really, really fun to play live, and really, really, just really fun to kick out. Like, you know, so. It's been great. It's been really exciting, taking the stage.
I remember, going back to that last conversation we had. That was another thing, the aspect where when artists, when we get to meet an artist at the beginning of their careers, we often do, and certainly we maintain our relationships with them. In my case, years later, it's always important to take stock. And I remember you saying you would be happy with 500 people that really believed in and wanted to share your music with you. For you, at that very beginning, that was an aspiration that would be fulfilling. Now those crowds are much bigger, but yet you are finding them being as engaged as I would imagine you ever hoped they could be.
Yeah, I've an amazing fan base, like an amazing support from and people who just got it the first time around. I felt so blessed when cause as I said, when we probably had this conversation, I didn't think the music was I thought it would reach a small audience. It was a kind of an indie crossover, you know what I mean? It was
Well, you were singing from the deep soul.
Yeah, I was.
It's not exactly auto-tuned, you know.
No, it was, like the vocals on Church are recorded in my attic. So we did, you know what I mean? They there's so much of that when I listen back, like that myself and Rob Kierwan got together on it, but it was there's a lot of it that was kind of DIY type stuff, which was really hopeful that any artist could get opportunities to like I got with that track. But yeah, the fan base is really, really supportive, and they kind of, I think they just get the whatever the quote unquote mission statement is of the work, you know what I mean, of just making something that, I'm a big believer in writing music that you wish you heard being written, you know what I mean, and and that's just, sometimes it's there's a lot of folk in there, there's a lot of blues in there, there's a lot of kind of soul influences, but it's super sweet. But even though I thought it would be a much smaller audience kind of moving forward, I don't know how to credit.
But that's reaffirming, right?
Yeah, no. It's
when you write songs with that sense of good purpose, and you see it resonating with 3 sold out nights at the Wiltern, which was just the first taste of revealing the new music, and they're there with you from step one. It gotta be great.
It's a good feeling. And not like I think this tour sold out here in North America before we had announced properly that we were releasing this EP. So it was kind of, I was a bit blown away by that support, and as I say, the album is yet to come. So it's kind of, we'll be back again. So it's a good feeling. It really is. But I just have the best fans in the world.
This is so much different. Yeah. Then our first, if you think back, was it now 6 years, 5 years? The Spam can's the only thing that's the same.
Yeah.
The Spam can is the only thing that's unchanged.
Yeah,
it's still there.
It's still there. Everything else.
That's going to be your touchstone. That's gonna, whenever you need grounding.
Yeah.
You stand before the Spam can.
They touch the can,
and you get centered.
Yeah, totally.
You get centered. Well, we all listen.
Thank you.
You're going to Austin after this, and then you're coming back across, and then you're going to be, we want to let our fans know, the lucky ones that are going to see you at the Observatory in San Diego on the 15th.
Yeah.
Godspeed to you, because
Thank you.
I said, what would Van do? Man, you're...
I appreciate it.
I gave you short shrift.
No,
I gave you short shrift, man.
Van has always been.
Now I can't even tell you what you're going to do next. I don't know what you're going to do next. You've scaled the mountain. You've got Mavis Staples. You got Booker T. You've got your own in-house choir now. You just do whatever the hell you want to do moving forward. You're good as gold.
Thank you, though. Thank you.
We love having you here, and we believe in what you're doing, and we believe in you. And it couldn't happen to a more well-intentioned guy. So God bless you, and
thank you,
and love every moment of it as best you can.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back as well. It's good to be back here.
Cheers to you, mate.
Thanks.
It is Hozier on 88.5 FM.